If you think you need a college degree to make six figures, you've been lied to, because right now there are people with 0 degrees, no fancy credentials, and they're pulling in over $100,000 a year. And you probably haven't even heard of half of these careers. Well, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 6 high income careers that don't require a college degree. And in doing so, I'll show you which one I believe is the smartest play for 2025 and beyond. And hint, it's not coding, it's not sales, and it's the one industry that AI cannot replace. So let's get right into it. So number 6 is going to be construction management or general contracting. And the nice thing about construction or any kind of trade really is that it's something that you don't need a college degree for. So the way that it would work is you would learn a particular trade. So if we say something like construction, and eventually you can get into a management role, you can start running your own contracting business off of that, and it'll allow you to scale your earnings well into the 6 figures. Now, it sounds good, but there are pros and cons to, let's face it, every single job out there. In particular, the main downside and consideration for something like this is, first of all, you need plenty of hands-on experience actually doing the trade. So if it's construction or plumbing or whatever it is, first you need to acquire that skill set, do it as a regular job, which is a blue-collar job, which is the next kind of downside, is that it can be a bit physically taxing. So especially depending on your age, if you're an older guy or something like that, then this probably isn't going to be the best path for you because of the physical demands. It's not something you want to be doing forever, because eventually you want to be able to leverage that hands-on experience to transition more into the management side. And it's going to also mean that you're going to have to acquire management skills and be able to showcase that as well. And then you're going to have to deal with some licensing challenges and have the business acumen to actually scale this out and make it work. But before we go any further, if you want to just skip all of this and work with me directly to land a 6-figure job that doesn't require a college degree, then go down to the link in the description below and book a call. Now, number 5 might surprise a lot of people. It's actually elevator installer or escalator mechanic, elevator repair technician. And the reason for that is it's a very niche and specialized trade, and it has very few entrants. And that is exactly what drives the pay to be super high. And also the demand is super high, because take a minute and think about how many elevators and escalators do you encounter on the day-to-day, especially if you're working in an office or if you live in a major urban center. There's so many that you probably didn't even think about, but all of these need, someone to install them, to repair them when they break down. And if you lived in a high-rise apartment, you probably had the experience of elevators going down constantly. So this is a super high in demand area, but it's still very niche and not that many people pursue it. And the reality is there's many people in the field who still do not have degrees in this area or anything like that, and they're earning 6 figures. Now, there are, of course, considerations to this, downsides, and that is, for one, you will need apprenticeship with something like this. It's pretty much the only established way to learn this type of a trade. As with many trades, you will need a lot of technical training and stuff like that to be able to perform the job duties. And number 3 is that you possibly might need to deal with union affiliations and all the complications that arise from that. So number 4 is also kind of a weird one. So hear me out. It's actually commercial pilot or aviation roles. And now, while airline pilots will often require a degree, if you want to be a commercial or charter pilot or roles that in aviation operations, that can typically be attained via a flight school and licensing alone without requiring a formal college degree. Now, the considerations for this is it can be a pretty high upfront cost for the training, and there's typically pretty strict regulatory and also physical requirements in order to be able to do this job. And you will need ongoing certifications and recertifications as well to keep that current. And another thing to consider for those of you that are looking for remote jobs, well, obviously if you're flying a plane, you got to do that in person, right? And so what that means is that you are going to be tied to the location depending on the flights that you're doing and things like that. So it could constrict your freedom. I mean, it will constrict your freedom in some ways. So that is a important thing to think about going in, if that is something that is important to you. And the next one is going to be real estate agent or real estate broker. And this holds true especially in luxury markets or commercial real estate, because typically as a real estate agent, you'll get paid on a commission for doing deals. And so if you're doing deals in high value property markets, these top brokers are routinely exceeding 6 figures a year. Now, the considerations for this is you're going to need to pass licensing still. So while you don't need a college degree to do this, there are you have to get your real estate license. And, for some people, people I've heard they found the test difficult. Some people find it super easy, but you will need to actually take and pass the licensing test to be able to do that. And you'll also need to build a network. That's really going to, you know, like when people say your network is your net worth, that holds especially true in something like this. It's who you know. So the networking part is super important so that you're able to get these deals that other people are not able to easily get. And there's often quite a bit of upfront marketing and lead generation costs. Essentially, you're going to have to learn to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, but selling real estate instead of like a product or something like that. That is the product that you're selling. So you're going to have to, you know, go through all of the learning and the trials and tribulations of a business owner, which I can tell you from firsthand experience is no easy task. So that is one of the requirements if you want to be successful in this area. So number 2 is going to be high ticket sales. You know, even if you're like someone that's doing the day-to-day sales or a sales director or account executive or something like that. And the reason is many sales roles are commission based, almost all of them. So performance matters a lot more than credentials. So they're not really caring so much if you have a college degree. It's more so, can you sell? Because at the end of the day, businesses thrive by their sales. They live and die by their sales. So the top performers in this area can scale into 6 or even 7 figures, to be honest, depending on how high ticket the offer is and how many leads they're talking to. Now, the consideration, and there are many for this one, is for one thing, you're going to need excellent persuasion skills and negotiation and pipeline management skills. And many companies will provide training and mentorship. That's the nice thing. You're going to have to really have thick skin. You're going to have to develop very thick skin in this area. So if the idea of sitting on calls and talking to people for 8 hours a day sounds draining to you, this is probably not the area for you, because this is literally, you know, what you live and die by as a salesman. You should always be on the phone. You should always be making calls and moving the needle forward. You know, this is something a lot of people, they don't like rejection, right? Because it's very uncomfortable and stuff like that. As a salesperson, that has to have like absolutely no effect on you, essentially, or you got to be able to roll with the punches on that, because you will be talking to a lot of people, getting a lot of rejections and trying to overcome them, overcome objections and things like that. It's a lower barrier to entry than a lot of things on this list, but it was one that requires a lot of hustle, hard work, and grit for sure. And number 1 is going to be cybersecurity. And the reason for that is not a single week goes by where some big company or even some company you may have never heard of is getting hacked, is getting breached. The governments around the world are dumping millions and millions, billions of dollars into cybersecurity. And that's only going to increase because now the new warfare is cyber warfare. It is, impacting every company, every organization, every government. As things like AI get more and more prevalent, they're leading to more security issues than we've ever seen in the history of technology. You know, experts are predicting that the usage of AI to actually hack by hackers is going to go up 600% by 2026. So this is an area where it's similar to sales in the sense that the demand for this is so high and the shortage is so low that people just are looking for someone who has the skill set, who can do the job, not necessarily that has some degree. And here's the thing, degrees, college degrees, they're great for things that don't change much over time, things like being a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, STEM, all of that stuff, right? But when it comes to something that is fast moving, fast paced, and constantly changing, technology and cybersecurity, college degrees are just not really positioned to be able to keep up with that. Now, like all the other ones on this list, there are definitely some considerations to be aware of. Number 1 with this is, even though there's a massive shortage in cybersecurity, it's also oversaturated at the entry level. So what that means is it's really difficult to break into it, but actually what you may be surprised to find is that with a little bit of positioning, if you know the right things to market yourself and to actually learn, if you focus on learning the right things, you can position yourself one step above that entry level. You can break in, and what you'll find may absolutely shock you. Because I know what you're thinking, right? You're thinking, okay, well, maybe cybersecurity doesn't require a degree, but it's super challenging and technical, right? What if I'm not smart enough? Well, in that case, you may be surprised to learn that most cybersecurity jobs are super easy. In fact, they're so easy that pretty much anyone can do them. So go watch the video down in the description below, and I will break down exactly what I mean by that.